Welcome to another video. Today we are going to continue our 2020 lineup by talking about the Polaris Sportsman 1000S, and it is sweet. But I'm going to do it a little different than some other channels that have done it out there. They've probably done it better than me. That's not an insult on them. So I'm going to leave this one thought in your head right off the bat. With the Polaris Sportsman 1000S out, should you even consider the Polaris Scrambler 1000? No, you should not. And with that single... All right, so I just pulled the Scrambler into the garage from the other garage to hopefully help ease some of the comments that I surely fueled with that original statement, and to make a point, right? Not only do I love the Polaris Scrambler, I literally own one. In our videos for the first time, my name is Chris, and this is Navigate Off-Road, where it's really all about providing you off-road information, destinations, and reviews. So if exploring the unpaved is your thing, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now, I want to get back to the original comment I made, but first, I think to put it in context, we got to first explore the Polaris Sportsman 1000S, and it's a beautiful machine. And make sure you stick around to the end, because I'm going to throw another wrench in there and probably make even more riders angry. All right, so starting with the style of this thing, like, I would be remiss if I didn't even... Did I just use the word remiss? I don't even know if I've ever said that word before. What I'm getting at is the style of this thing is absolutely amazing. It seems like every year these machines get better and better looking, and there's no question that holds true for the Sportsman 1000S. Now, as we move around to the front, one of the things that stands out to me right away is just the beautiful headlight design that they've got hidden behind the Polaris Ultimate bumper that's going to be on the front and the back of this thing. And speaking of the back, when you're looking at that and you look a little lower, you're going to notice that beautifully center mounted exhaust. There's actually some controversy. I've heard some people complain about it. I love it. I freaking love it. I think it looks beautiful. It reminds me of my sport bikes back in the day. So again, Polaris, I'm a huge fan of that. Now, as we look up a little bit further and check out the racks, you're going to see that that's a 300-pound... You're actually not going to see that. It doesn't say it on there. I'm just telling you. They've increased the capacity to 300 pounds. This rear rack can hold 300 pounds, which is awesome, but it's also plastic. So I kind of question how well that's really going to hold up. So I guess that's something that only time's going to tell. Now, if we move around to the front and we look at the front one, that's got a 200-pound capacity. So again, increased. Love the fact that they did that. Now, as we move down from the front rack, we're going to find ourselves looking at a 3,500-pound good-looking machine, because it makes us look cooler than we really are. It doesn't really help us much on the trail. So when we get to the performance of this thing, Polaris actually claims that they've basically started over all the way down to the chassis, and they've made it 31% stronger. Now, they've also stretched the wheelbase on this thing, and they've put most of that in front of the rider. So that's going to leave your front end a little lighter and just help with the overall balance of the vehicle. Now, I haven't been on one yet, but I have heard from people that have been on them that it is, in fact, a nice benefit, and it does help with it providing a really good ride. Now, they've also gone ahead and upgraded the transmission in this thing, but it is still running the same ProStar 1000 engine in previous years, as well as the same one that's in the Scrambler 1000, and that's a 950cc twin engine that's pushing 89 horsepower, which ironically is actually 1 horsepower less than last year's XP 1000. Now, as opposed to the Scrambler, which only has 2 drive modes, the Sportsman has 3, your standard, your work, and your performance, which makes sense, because why would you put work mode in the Scrambler when it's not built for that? And lastly, let me just say, they've gone ahead, this is awesome, and they've taken the front diff out of the Ranger and they've put it in the Sportsman. They basically just cut it out and then stuck it in, put it in there, which I think is a huge gain. That's an awesome improvement there. Now, when we move around and look at this thing from the front, you might be thinking to yourself, wow, that looks wide as crap. And you are, in fact, correct. It is wide as crap, sitting at 55 inches wide. But don't get too hung up on that. We'll rally back to that one. You might also notice some arched A arms, and hanging out with those arched A arms, you will find some Walker Evans 2.0 adjustable shocks, all of which are going to give this thing a ground clearance of 14.5 inches, which is phenomenal for an ATV. Just phenomenal. It's also got long travel suspension, so you've got 11.6 inches of travel in the front and 14 inches in the back. By the way, dear Polaris, whoever did your website, Got some numbers wrong on there, FYI. Continuing down those arched A-arms, we will find 14-inch aluminum wheels that are currently holding on 27-inch Duro Pro Grip version 2 tires. That's got 9 inches in the front and 11 inches in the back. Now, this is one area I really wish Polaris would have followed what they did with the Scrambler and put 11-inch tires all the way around and made them same. Now, what are we looking at for weight? Because we've got a lot on this beast. 970 pounds dry. That's a pretty heavy machine. How much is it going to cost you? $14,999 US and $17,999 Canadian. All right, so back to my original comment. There's 3 big reasons why I think you should consider the Sportsman 1000S over the Scrambler 1000S. And do me a favor, leave a comment down below the video. Let me know as we go through these if you agree with me or disagree with me. Reason number 1, the Sportsman has more abilities. I mean, it's honestly a much more well-rounded machine. It's going to do great on the trails. It's going to do great at the farm. It's going to do great when you're towing something. It's going to do great on ATV trips if you go camping or you need to haul stuff or store stuff. It's got more storage capacity. It's just a great overall well-rounded machine. Next is the fact that the Sportsman still has tons of, I'm not saying they're exactly the same. My point is the 1000 still has tons of power. Now, the Scrambler is quite literally turning into what I consider a race machine. If you're going to race it, it's for you. But for 90% of the people, that's a made-up statistic. For most riders, I think the Sportsman 1000S is going to provide them more power and speed and everything else than they're honestly truly going to need. You're not going to maximize most of that when you're going down the trail. Now, there are a few riders that will, so I'm not saying it's everybody, but it's the rule, right? There's still going to be some exceptions to the rule. And when I got this Scrambler, times were different. The Sportsman has came a long ways. In the last few years, I think the durability's increased, the power's increased. It's just a very well-rounded, powerful machine, and I don't think that most people are going to maximize the speed and the power of the Sportsman to be like, geez, I wish I had a Scrambler. I just don't. And then you miss on some of the great things the Sportsman has that the Scrambler doesn't, like towing and storage and its ability to just be an overall well-rounded machine. Lastly is the possibility for upgrades and modifications. There's still a lot for the Scrambler. You can get a lot, but it's definitely not as popular as the Sportsman. So you're going to have more options for upgrades and improvements with the Sportsman over the Scrambler. That one, you know, it's pretty minimal, but still something to think about. These are all just something to think about. It's not to say that you personally shouldn't consider the Scrambler. It is to say that I believe for most riders between the two machines, the Sportsman is now the better option. All right, so here it is, curveball coming at you. After all that talk about how awesome the 1000S is, I argue, don't get either one. Don't get the Scrambler 1000. Don't get the Sportsman 1000S models, that is. Go out and get yourself the Polaris Sportsman XP 1000. All right? Now, leave a comment down below and let me know which one you would get if you were going to get one. But hear me out here, all right? Hear me out. There's a few reasons for this. Reason number 1, it's too freaking wide. It's 55 inches wide. It's not even a Class 1 machine anymore. You might as well just get a side-by-side. All right, now Polaris is claiming that they're working with the government because, you know, there's all sorts of issues. A lot of trails are only 50 inches or below. A lot of states are not wanting to license them properly. I don't understand exactly what Polaris is doing when they're working with the government, but one thing I can tell you, and that is the fact that the government generally does not do awesome things super, super fast. So maybe wait like 8 or 9 years if that ever changes, and then get yourself a 55-inch machine. And let me just say while we're at it, I love narrow trails. Like, I actually love the option to go down those super narrow trails. So I'd be a little bit mad at Polaris if they took that away from me and all of a sudden all the trails are bigger than 55 inches. We have side-by-sides for that and trails designated for that. Sometimes I like to take the risk of getting smacked in the face by a branch on a 50-inch trail as I'm shooting down it. So something to think about. Secondly, I'm gonna bring it down. Secondly is the price, all right? The Sportsman XP 1000 MSRP $12,099. Now, the Sportsman 1000S, $14,999. If I could do math, that'd be like $2,900. $2,900 difference. Now, there are definitely some advantages to having the 1000S over the XP 1000. For example, it's got a 31% stronger chassis, right? It's got better steering. The XP 1000's been known to have some steering issues. It's got Pro Steer in it, which is awesome. It's got the front diff out of the Ranger. It's got higher ground clearance at 14.5 inches. But here's the thing, all right? You just saved $2,900. Fix the steering. Go to highlifter.com, get yourself a Highlifter kit, however high you want, all right? Because you've got $29 extra $100 you can spend. While you're at it, get yourself a rad relocation kit, go ahead and snorkel that puppy, add an audio system on there, get some bumpers. By the way, you have still spent less than $2,900 at that point with all those accessories. So that's where I'm at. Save yourself the $2,900 and put that money into the XP 1000 in any which way you want. That is if you're dead set on spending $15,000 on your ATV and still have a machine that comes in at, I believe, 47.5 or 48 inches wide, allowing you to go on all the trails. There we go. 2020 ATV and UTV lineup, or click this link below it, this little square box, to just see our latest video. As always, I hope this was informational. If not informational, I hope it was at least entertaining. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you on the trail. Oh, I gotta go. I gotta go that way.